Joining us at the table is Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee.
Congressman, what is the danger to the American people of an FBI director who is willing to cook the books?
I mean, that's one aspect of what's dangerous about Kash Patel, but it just begins the long, long list. The problem is that it's very hard then to figure out accurate statistics, to figure out and analyze, all right, what is actually going on? Where is crime going up? Where is it going down? Where should we be putting our resources? How should we be partnering better with other law enforcement agencies? But the way that he uses it, of course, is as a blanket denial of his own flawed and weak conduct. And so by padding these numbers, by him just saying there, 45,000 arrests. Now, if you're going to count every arrest where one FBI agent goes with one of the masked ICE teams to pick up as many immigrants, many of whom are lawfully here, to try to deport them, yeah, your numbers are going to go way up because they are arresting tens and hundreds of thousands. But if you actually are just focused on the work that you're doing, then you won't have that. And that makes a huge difference as he's talking about his job. The other thing I'll add, homicide is a state crime. There are murder charges, of course, that are connected to other federal crimes. But if the murder rate is down, that is because of local police. It is not because of federal law enforcement. What I would like to know is, what about the public corruption cases? What about the terrorism cases? What about international narcotics trafficking? What about child and sex trafficking? I'd like to know about the bread and butter of what the FBI used to do and how those statistics compare to what's going on over the last year and a half.
Yeah, well, I imagine he's not going to talk about those, Congressman, because when you talk to folks in the Bureau and folks that are at the DOJ, they don't seem to be working on a lot of it, especially the white-collar crimes. You said the list was long for Patel, the kinds of things that he was dealing with. His payback squad, according to Notice, is also one of those things. This is from their story yesterday. The FBI now has a team of special agents that's being internally referred to as the Payback Squad, specifically put together to handle politically sensitive cases, according to 4 sources briefed on the matter, who spoke to Notice on the condition of anonymity. The team is understood to be made up of agents who are willing to pursue political targets set by the Trump administration. That seems to put into both sentences and a team what people have been saying for a very long time, which is this FBI, this DOJ, has been weaponized against the perceived political enemies of the president of the United States. But when you hear it put like that and you see that they have a fun little name for it, what are your thoughts?
Well, we know it's happening because Donald Trump tweeted it to Pam Bondi, but did it publicly and ordered her to arrest his enemies. We've now seen it with James Comey being arrested yet again. We've seen it with this bogus Southern SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center indictment. It almost certainly had to be there, but now this is coming out. What I find interesting is you can expect the Notice reporters to be investigated now or be sued or both, because that's what Kash Patel does. When there was a unflattering story about how he was misusing FBI resources and the SWAT team to provide security for his girlfriend, he sued the New York Times. He lost. It got thrown out. But then there was reporting that he actually also tried to investigate that journalist. Again, with the Atlantic story, he has now sued the Atlantic. That will get thrown out as well. I wish it wouldn't get thrown out. I'd love to see Discovery on this one. But it will get thrown out, and he's now allegedly investigating them. This guy is out of control. He is not doing anything that he is supposed to do. And this is someone who, back in 2020, Bill Barr said, over my dead body would he become the deputy FBI director. And what we are seeing right now is a complete failure, and it's a catastrophe for the FBI, for our national security. And if something bad happens, and we are at greater risk of something bad happening. We have a war abroad. He has relocated, he's redirected about 25% of the criminal law enforcement agents to do civil immigration work. It's on him. It is on him.
You know, I believe that with this, and I would just argue the payback squad is a dressed up way to talk about the enemies list.
Right.
That Kash Patel often spoke about in his podcast days, and no shade to the podcasters. We got a podcast. Block it.
Exactly.
Okay, but in his podcast
you're not
days.
becoming the FBI director. No offense.
No. But, you know, I think I do a better job than Kash. Baby. You never know.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, you
I
never
agree.
know. But I'm very happy with where I am right now. Thank you, MS Now. I just, it harkens back to the enemies list, which is a thing that he, under oath before Congress, before the Senate, when he was being confirmed through his confirmation hearing, he said that there was no list and he would not operate that way. Another lie that was told.
It's in his book.
It's literally in his, who's going to hold him accountable for this? Again, yet I don't know. But he is taking a page out of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. When J. Edgar Hoover was in charge of the FBI, they investigated known opponents to the government or the people in power. He had people followed, right? He tapped people's homes. I mean, there's documented reporting about what happened to civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. I think what is happening is very dangerous because I do think that my Republican friends think in terms of an election at all times. I think in terms of power at every turn. And one of the things that Donald Trump has said from the beginning is that he has gotten crime under control. You know, they like to run on this law and order crime situation. My concern is that the agency that is in charge of auditing everyone else's crime data is now willing to cook their own books. And so now the data that was used to that people like myself would use to cite to say that the Trump administration is not telling the truth about crime in this country, now that data is actively being manipulated. So Republicans, either this fall or next fall or the fall after that, are going to go out there and tell the American people, well, we brought crime down. Trump brought crime down. You're safer under this president, and the numbers will now support that because they're lying. That is why this matters.
Yeah, and that's why we need the many, many good Samaritans, good law enforcement officers, good special agents that work for the FBI, who I worked with for 10 years as a federal prosecutor, to be willing to come forward as whistleblowers. We have a process where we will protect their identity. We will protect them. They can do it now. They can do it when we're in the majority and in January when we have more power. But the way we're going to get the transparency is to have some of those brave patriots, and they are almost across the board patriots, that need to come in and expose the corruption, the misconduct, and the absolute lawlessness that is going on with the FBI.
I just have one follow-up. Can you be a patriot if you're participating in cooking the books?
Well, you know, obviously, they are expected to follow the law. And if they're asked to do something that is different, that is not following the law, they should refuse. But my guess is that there are a very select few that he has around him on this payback squad that is separated from everybody else and is his little sort of evil dominion that is doing his dirty work, his abuse of power. I hope in some ways, I hope he's there in January when we take the majority, because I would look forward to cross-examining him again. But I don't think he's going to make it that long. I just worry that before he leaves, something really bad is going to happen.